This is the Village of Riverside Board of Trustees regular meeting for Thursday, July 6, 2017. The time is 7 p.m. Please call the roll.
President Self.
Here.
Trustee Pollak.
Here.
Trustee Giza.
Here.
Trustee Lumsden.
Here.
Trustee Valerie.
Here.
Trustee Sedevy.
Here.
Trustee Peters. Here. Joining us by phone this evening.
And she is at home on a medical leave. Does anybody have objection to her joining us telephonically? Hearing none, she's welcome to join the meeting. Did you introduce you guys already?
Oh, I'm sorry. Village also present. Village Manager Francis. Here. Village Attorney Mars.
Here.
Village Clerk Haley.
Okay, thank you very much. If you'll please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and good evening. Welcome to everyone who's here with us and everybody watching at home. If you are here with us and you'd like to make a comment at any point during the night, I just ask that you be recognized by the president and that you make your comment from the podium so everyone can hear and see what you have to say. So up first are presentations and public comment. Would anyone like to address the board? Yes, sir, please.
My name is Pete Koster. I live in Scottswood Road, and recently there's been a sewer system project on Scottswood Road in the 200 block. There's a significant dust issue on that street during this project. Seems that the faster vehicles go, the bigger the dust cloud. And frequently traffic is 5 or 10 miles over the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. We and our neighbors were unable to open our windows to our house because of a dust issue. That certainly poses health issues for the residents and also the workers in the project. I went to the police department to request that they post a lower speed limit than 25 miles an hour. Their reply was that that was not possible because only the village board has the power to set speed limits in the village. What I am proposing or suggesting is that the police department would be empowered to set temporary speed limits in construction zones for the safety of the workers and the health of their neighbors. They're in a much better position to deal with these issues as they arise rather than a monthly meeting of the board. Thank you.
I can tell you that I will look into that. I don't know. I mean, we can talk with our village attorney about it. I'm not sure that we have the authority to give the police department that authority, but we will certainly look into it and see if that's something that we can do. Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to reports of village officers. First up is the village president's report. I have a letter that I would like to read to you from Paul Kuchera, who was the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Dear President Sells, since 2003, I have had the honor and privilege of serving Riverside on the Preservation Commission, on the Plan Commission, and since it was created, on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Serving the village has been one of the most rewarding joys of my life as a Riverside resident. I've taken the occasion of my commission renewal in June to conclude that now would be a good time to hand off this privilege to the next generation of talented leaders. I respectfully request that my commission be allowed to expire effective at the conclusion of the June 28, 2017 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, which I will chair. I am extremely grateful for having been given the opportunity by several boards over the years to serve the village that my family and I call home. And I hope that somehow I've contributed to it being a better place than it was. I am pleased with and proud of the accomplishments over the years that the Planning and Zoning Commission, in concert with the great work performed by the Village Board of Trustees, has contributed to Riverside's progress. It does take a small village to successfully steward an actual village. And it's been a privilege to have worked with so many wonderfully talented village staff, trustees, commissioners, and counselors who have all been inspirationally committed to the vibrancy of Riverside while respecting its special heritage. As a resident, I am very grateful to all in the village government who ongoingly help make Riverside a special place to live. Thank you for that. Perhaps there will be another opportunity for me to again serve when the timing is right, and that would be something that I would enjoy considering. In the meantime, I wish you, the Village Board of Trustees, Sonia, Jessica, and the entire Village of Riverside team all the best. Good luck in your endeavors. See you around town. Very cordially, Paul Kuchera. So, 15 years, Mr. Kuchera has served our village in all of the various places that he mentioned. And the silver lining of this letter is the place where he says that when the timing is right, he might be able to serve us again. So, Paul, if you're watching out there, or if you hear this, thank you for what you have done for our village, and we wish you the very best, and we hope to see you again in a position of leadership soon. With Mr. Kuchera's departure, we do now have a vacancy for the chairperson, so the first thing on my report tonight, after reading Paul's letter, is a motion to appoint Jill Mateo as chairperson of the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term of 1 year. So I'd ask for a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Ballerine, second by Mr. Lumsden. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Pollak.
Aye.
Trustee Gisa.
Aye.
Trustee Lumsden.
Aye.
Trustee Ballerine.
Aye.
Trustee Sedovy. Trustee Peters.
Motion carries. I would like to point out that with this appointment, Manager Francis and I have found what looks to be an issue with our code. It was my memory that when we went through and did the extensive redrafting of the commission structure, that we had limited all commission chairs to 1-year terms. I think I remember it like yesterday, but we cannot find that anywhere in our code. I don't know, Mr. Mars, if you remember that. But we've been appointing chairs for 1 year. Curiously, in the Planning and Zoning Commission current ordinance, it says that the chair will be appointed for 5 years and cannot have more than 2 consecutive terms. So we're going to have to look into that and try to find what that issue was, because right now the only place that we've been able to find where it actually specifies a 1-year term for a chair is in the Parks and Recreation Board. So I think it was simply an oversight. So we'll be looking into that and bringing language back to the board to kind of clean up that one issue. The next thing I have are the trustee liaisons. The function of the trustee liaisons is to provide a conduit between the village board and our various commissions. We have over 60 commissioners in various commissions in our village, probably the largest commission structure of any village that I know of. And it's a great way to get advice, not only from the commissions, but the commissioners also provide more of a network out into the community at large. Our current trustee liaisons are Trustee Ballerine has Riverside TV and Parks and Rec. Mr. Lumsden has Preservation and Historical. Mr. Sedovy has the Police Pension Board and also serves as a finance, kind of an oversight person. And Mr. Pollak has Planning and Zoning Commission. What I am suggesting with our for consideration with our 2 new trustees would be that Ms. Peters, who was the chair of the EDC, the Economic Development Commission, would become the liaison for that commission. And Mr. Ballerine has expressed an interest that maybe it's time for a changing of the guard. How long have you been with Parks and Rec? Can you even remember how long? It's been a long time, right? So his suggestion, which I think would be a great suggestion, would be for Mr. Gisa to take over the Parks and Recreation Board liaison. That leaves, as a remaining assignment, the Landscape Advisory Commission. So that's where we are right now. I don't know if any trustees have any comments or suggestions about that. And what I thought is I'll make the appointments at our first meeting in August. So if anybody is interested in making any changes with the structure I just outlined, or if anybody is in particular interested in LAC, I would just ask that you let me know, and we can go from there. So if no one has any comments about that, that is all I have. Manager Francis.
I just wanted to notify residents that vehicle stickers, now the fee has gone up by $10 for the respective vehicle sticker prices. However, enforcement of the vehicle stickers will not take place until July 14th because we have to still mail out all of the ones that came in basically prior to the deadline, and to allow enough time for residents to receive that via the mail. So there's all I have.
Before we go, Mr. Ballerini, were you going to say something under the liaisons about the July 3rd and 4th?
I will do that, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so next up is approval of the consent agenda. A short one tonight. On the consent agenda is the approval of voucher list of bills July 6, 2017, approval of Village Board Trustees regular meeting minutes June 15, 2017, and file and review the following: Landscape Advisory Commission regular meeting minutes of May 9th, Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting and public hearing minutes of May 24th, Preservation Commission regular meeting minutes of April 13th, and Riverside TV Commission regular meeting minutes of May 8th. Also on the agenda, a resolution authorizing the village manager to enter into a contract with Paramedic Services of Illinois to provide ambulance billing and collection of fees for ambulance services rendered by the Village of Riverside Fire Department. Does anyone need any of these items removed for discussion? Hearing none, I ask for a motion, a second to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Ballerini.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lumsden. Please call the roll.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Giza.
Aye.
Trustee Lumsden.
Aye.
Trustee Ballerini.
Aye.
Trustee Sedeby.
Aye.
Trustee Peters.
Motion carries. Next up are reports of departments, commissions, and trustee liaisons. Do we have any reports this evening? Mr. Ballerini.
I'll start with the 3rd and 4th. Wonderful weekend. Thank you, everybody, for all your help, especially the village offices. I know it's a huge task for Public Works and Recreation and police and fire, and everyone does such a wonderful job. It almost seems like nobody's even thinking. It just happens. We put, I don't know how many people were in the park on Monday night, but there was a lot. And it's amazing how there's that many people in the park, and within 20 minutes, the place is as clean as a whistle. I drove by there at 6 in the morning, and you wouldn't even think there was anything going on. I found a couple of bottle caps. So thank you for all the people for picking up after themselves, and thank you for Public Works for their great job, and thank you for Recreation. The 4th was a great day. Being trustee liaison, I want you to know, Wendell, my job is always weather, so that's going to be something you're going to have to take over from here on. We've had great weather for the last 10 years, so I'm just telling you. No pressure. No pressure. It's going to be tough. So we'll start our planning for next year. If anybody has any suggestions how we can make it better, or anything you'd like to share, please go to the website. You have my email, or email Ron. We'd love to hear it. We're always looking for some new ideas. So, and we got already some ideas for next year. So please reach out. Secondly, we've had a couple conversations at the board level about the picnicking and fishing and things, and I just want everyone to know that the next recreation board meeting will be held on Monday, July 17th at 6:30. And if anyone would like to come and talk to that board, they'll be given some recommendations to this board. It's a little bit less formal than it is here, so there's a nice way of having some conversation back and forth. So we look forward to anyone that would like to come. If you can't come and you'd like to again send in some ideas, you can surely send them to me, or you can send them to Ron at the office. So that's July 17th, Monday at 6:30. That has changed since I think our schedule goes out. I think, but that should be what it is. And that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add one thing to that, they're there, but you hardly realize they're there sometimes. But our Riverside TV was, of course, at the July 3rd and 4th, and they do an amazing job of having the work they do up almost the next day. Usually these meetings are up the next day so that people have an opportunity to see what's going on here. And also,
Under the police, I should mention the auxiliary police.
and yeah, the explorers were there
Yeah.
to help us out with all the traffic. And
I bulk them all together, but they are,
And a really nice, just kind of, it's not a small thing, but an aside thing that happened, we had, Friends of the Fourth had a 50-50 split that night with a raffle. And I think we had something like a couple $1,000s that we collected over the night for the raffle. The winner decided that to remain anonymous and promptly donated the money right back to the Friends of the Fourth. So that's just kind of a indication of the kind of people we have in this town. So, mystery person out there, thank you. Thank you for that.
That's a big head start now, too, so.
That's right. Okay, anything else on liaisons? Okay, moving on to ordinances and resolutions. First up is a resolution authorizing the village manager to enter into an agreement with and issue a purchase order to Deegan and Associates LLC for oversight and contractor management services for the abatement, demolition, and soil remediation at 2710 South Harlem Avenue in an amount not to exceed $46,000. Director Apt.
Yes, you have the proposal before you. We purchased the 2710 South Harlem property back in April of this year after identifying it as a possible site for redevelopment opportunity. Prior to the purchase of the property, we had hired Deegan and Associates to do the Phase 1 and Phase 2 environmental studies of the property, and they found that there was soil contamination as well as asbestos in the building that needed to be remediated. So they created our bid documents for the demolition and remediation. And they've helped us with the review of the submittals for the abatement, demolition, and remediation. So they provided a proposal for oversight of these projects as well as providing the final NFR, no further remediation letter once the soil remediation is done. So you have a copy of that proposal before you. Gary Deegan from Deegan Associates is here as well to answer any questions that you have about this or the other two projects for that site. So that's all I have.
Do we have as I read this, and I know there's a couple other things we're talking about here too, but as I read the various contracts we're being asked to approve, we do not have a contract yet for the soil remediation, actually?
Correct.
And do we have an estimate of those costs?
I believe we have a $50,000 estimate for those costs, is what we were provided by Deegan Associates when they did their Phase 2 study of the property. They gave us a kind of cost estimate of the different items that needed to be done. That bid has been put out. The due date is, we'll have the bid opening on Monday at 2 p.m. So hopefully for our next board meeting, we'll have that contract on the agenda for you guys to review.
And was there a reason why that was bid separately, or why it wasn't bid
Just
at the
took a
same
little
time
bit-
as the other two?
I'll let Gary answer that one.
Before we go any further, let's go ahead and get a motion and a second on this so we can have this conversation. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution? Motion by Mr. Pollack. Second by Mr. Gisa. Sir, please.
Thank you. Gary Deegan with Deegan Associates. I'm pleased to be here tonight. Thank you for the work you've given us so far. That's a good question. We thought that for economy, that the demolition contractor is probably not the best contractor to do soil remediation. So we separated the asbestos from the demolition, and then we felt that the soil remediation was best done by contractors that specialize in that. I think you'll see less contractor markup than you would otherwise have seen had we put that under the demolition contractor. So I think we have a goal to meet in terms of cost. You made a decision based on this property, based on a cost estimate that our firm gave you, and so far everything's working out very nicely in terms of the bids we received for the abatement and the demolition, and on Monday we'll have a better feel on the soil remediation.
You don't have any reason to believe it should be something unexpected? There's no changes since your last estimate? Or
We wrote a pretty tight contract, so I would expect it'll be right within that range we expected.
And then one other follow-up question. The point 6 that we're contracting for the IEPA reporting and NFR letter, that includes the IEPA fees. What are the IEPA fees typically? How much of that is IEPA fees?
They issue an assessment fee on top of their no further remediation letter that can range, depending on the complexity of the site, That can range anywhere between $6,000 and $10,000. And they also ask for reimbursement of their review fees.
Got it. So of that 25, 6 to 10 of it is going
Could
to
be
the
IEPA
IEPA.
fees.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Dean? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else? Please call the roll.
Trustee Pollock. Trustee Giza. Trustee Lumsden. Trustee Ballerine. Trustee Sedovy. Trustee Peters.
Motion carries. Next up is a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute an agreement in the amount of $10,900 with Cove Remediation LLC for the pre-demolition asbestos abatement at 2710 South Harlem Avenue. Director Rapp.
As I noted before, the property does have asbestos inside of it, which needs to be abated before the building can be demolished. So the pre-demolition asbestos abatement project was duly advertised, and a bid opening was held on June 12th. Of the 8 bids received, ranging from $10,900 to $28,750, Cove Remediation submitted the lowest responsive bid in the amount of $10,900. Deegan & Associates has reviewed the bid submittals and provided their analysis, which you have attached for your reference. He says that Cove Remediation has performed asbestos abatement on multiple municipal projects that they have overseen in the past, and they have completed their work satisfactorily in the scheduled amount of time and at the agreed-upon cost. So Cove Remediation is an IDPH, which is the Department of Public Health licensed abatement contractor, and they estimate that the abatement will be completed within 2 shifts. So it should be done pretty quickly once they get the go-ahead to get started. You have the bid documents and the resolution before you. And again, Mr. Deegan is here to answer any questions that you have regarding the abatement.
Ask for a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Motion by Mr. Pollock, second by Mr. Lumsden. Any conversation or questions about this one? Please call the roll.
Trustee Pollock. Trustee Giza. Trustee Lumsden. Trustee Ballerine. Trustee Sedovy. Trustee Peters.
Motion carries. Next is a motion to reject all bids, waive competitive bidding, and approve a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute an agreement in the amount of $24,310 with KLF Enterprises, Inc. for the demolition of the structure on 2710 South Harlem Avenue. Director Rapp.
Yes, we went out for demolition bid for the property at 2710 South Harlem. Of the 4 vendors that responded, Deegan & Associates recommends KLF Enterprises, which submitted the lowest bid. KLF, however, did not provide a schedule of completion and the signed acknowledgement of the addendum as required by the bid specifications. KLF was contacted by Deegan & Associates and promptly provided the schedule of completion as well as the signed acknowledgement, stating that it was an oversight on their part. While the village has the ability to waive for technical noncompliance, staff believes the better course of action is to reject all bids, waive competitive bidding, and award the contract to KLF in the amount of $24,310. Deegan & Associates has reviewed the bid submittals and provided their analysis, which you have attached to your agenda history sheet. So we're looking for a motion to reject all bids and waive competitive bidding, and then approve a resolution that would authorize the village manager to enter into a contract with KLF.
Motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Pollock. Second, there we go. Second by Mr. Sedovy. Any questions? Please call the roll.
Trustee Pollock. Trustee Giza. Trustee Lumsden. Trustee Ballerine. Trustee Sedovy. Trustee Peters.
Motion carries. Finally, an ordinance amending Section 7-113, construction and landscaping activities, time limits of the Village Code of the Village of Riverside, Illinois, relative to time limitations on construction and landscaping activities. Director Rapp.
Yes, staff has identified construction hours as an area of the code that needs a little bit of clarification. The current time restrictions state which hours construction and landscaping activities are not permitted. It also states various exceptions, including exception for street excavation work, emergency repairs, and then also that there is no work permitted on certain federal holidays. There has been some discrepancy in whether construction activity is permitted on Sundays. Staff believes these regulations should be clearer for both staff as well as our contractors and the public. So the proposed amendment will clarify that no construction activity or landscaping activity by contractors is permitted on Sundays. The proposed changes will state which hours construction and landscape activities are permitted rather than when they're not permitted, and clarifies that work would be allowed on Sundays for homeowners only. So it would say that specifically businesses are not permitted to do work on Sundays, but that homeowners would be allowed to. So construction hours are currently and would continue to be Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And on Saturday from 8 to 8. Monday through Friday, it's 7 to 8. On Saturday, it's 8 to 8. And on Sunday, it would be restricted to 9 to 8. And again, that would be for homeowners only, not for contractors, landscape or construction. That is the bulk of the amendment. So currently, we have other parts of the code that we utilize for our own construction activities that we are exempted from our noise regulations, so that we have a little bit more flexibility when it's in the village's interest or like the state, something like that, their interest, to have earlier hours or later hours, something along those lines. So there's already things in the code that make for those exceptions. But you do have the amended code language before you, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
So as an example, if the village has the right, as you guys manage, we're empowered to allow the construction to continue as long as it's a contract you all issue. So if we wanted to, as an example, do a push to get ready for an event, we could authorize overtime or something like that.
Exactly.
To proceed, right? Okay.
So we did similar things like with allowing some earlier Saturday hours during the Burlington streetscape to try and get things done before like the 4th of July and things like that. So they were authorized to start work, say at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, so that hopefully then they could also wrap up earlier before people were in the downtown.
Okay. I think that's important. Thank you.
Is the prohibition on commercial work on Sundays, is that typical of our surrounding communities? Are we unique or?
No, there's a lot of communities that don't allow construction on Sundays.
I'd like clarification on that, what that means, no commercial or business entity.
So we're talking about our licensed contractors as well as any like landscaping contractors. So if you hire somebody to mow your lawn, they would not be permitted to do that on a Sunday. If you've hired somebody to, remodel your bathroom, they can work on Saturday, but they can't be working on Sunday.
The purpose of this is, I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, is to lessen the impact on neighbors.
Correct.
So why is the impact different if I have a contractor doing the work as opposed to me doing the work?
Well, the idea is that for homeowners, they may only be able to work on the weekends. And so by taking away an entire day for them to be able to work in on a project at their home, that makes the project last that much longer.
I'm troubled by that there's a difference, because the public interest to me is to lessen the impact on the neighbors. If you're gonna, if I can go out there and operate my leaf blower or whatever, does it matter if I hire a kid down the street to do it or a contractor to do it? It's the same impact, isn't it?
Well, there's also the parking on the street factors, and I think in my mind at least, the idea is that a homeowner is going to be more respectful of the neighbors than perhaps a construction company is, because they do have to live next door to them every day.
I have no issues with that. Again, I do a ton of work on the weekends, and we know when his kids take naps and we stop, right? I mean, I think that that's part of being a neighborly group, that you do that. Plus, there's a lot of folks that enjoy doing the gardening, and you kind of do it with your neighbors, at least we do. So I'm fully supportive of that.
Could I ask a clarification? Because I read it differently than you just described it. I think you gave an example of someone remodeling their bathroom on a Sunday. I think you should clearly be allowed to do that, and this code clearly allows you to do it. Because unless you're using, it says, no person, that creates a loud and disturbing noise. I'm assuming if you're remodeling a bathroom inside, that wouldn't involve loud and disturbing noise. So, I mean, that's not, the intent isn't to prohibit all construction activity inside and outside, is it?
Right, no, it's more for something that's going to be a louder
Got it.
activity. So if you're doing excavations, if you're reciting your house,
Sure.
if you're going to be using, loud nail guns, things like that are going to be noisier. Yes, if you're redoing your bathroom on the inside, presumably, I would hope that things are not that loud.
Presumably, most interior work would be permissible, presumably, okay.
Let's get a motion in a second first. Would you like to square the circle? Okay, motion by Mr. Lumsden. Come on, Doug, this is your chance. Second by Mr. Ballerine. So just because this is important, I think, to everybody, let me just quickly read. This is the new language, that the relevant language. Except as otherwise provided in this code, no person or commercial or business entity shall use construction tools or power equipment or engage in any building of construction activities requiring the use of any equipment that creates a loud and disturbing noise, or use gasoline-powered landscape equipment, including without limitation leaf blowers, lawnmowers, chainsaws, trimmers, edgers, mechanical tree or brush grinding equipment, or other mechanical landscape maintenance devices, except through the hours of, and this is the relevant part, 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. on Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. on Saturday, and 9 o'clock a.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. on Sunday. Notwithstanding the foregoing, no commercial or business entity shall use construction tools or power equipment or engage in any building or construction activities requiring the use of any equipment that creates a loud and disturbing noise, or use gasoline-powered landscaping and maintenance equipment at any time on Sunday. So that's the relevant language. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Trustee Pollak. Trustee Giza. Trustee Lumsden. Trustee Ballerine. Trustee Sedovey. Trustee Peters.
Motion carries. Thank you, Director. We have no considerations. Does anyone have any new business? We do have need for an executive session this evening to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee or legal counsel, to discuss probable imminent or pending litigation, and to discuss the setting of a price for lease of village property. So I'd ask for a motion to adjourn to executive session. No action will be taken, not to reconvene. By Mr. Lumsden. Second, Mr. Ballerine. Please call the roll.
Trustee Pollak. Trustee Giza. Trustee Lumsden. Trustee Ballerine. Trustee Sedovey. Trustee Peters.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Good night.